advantage for this. But anyway, hello and welcome to the second of our 3 Pride panels for the year. This one is on queer creativity. I am Charles Pesor. I am the Vice President of Media for the Chippewa Valley LGBTQ+ Community Center. I will be the moderator today. I'll let the panelists introduce themselves, starting with Sam.
Hi, I'm Sam LaRose. I am a self-published author with 5 books out and 2 coming in maybe the next year or so. Maybe more, who knows. I'm originally from the Chippewa Valley area, specifically Augusta, and still live there.
Hello, my name is Tyler, he, him. I also go by TYB. I'm a performing artist, alternative hip-hop and pop music. I've been doing music for a long time, but I would say kind of seriously or professionally about 5 years. And I feel like I'm kind of starting my journey, and been able to have music placed on a Capital One ad. I'm currently on a Pride Fest tour right now, and yeah, just going day by day.
Excuse me, I was like, that's great, and then a little phlegm in my throat. But I like how I said you're on the beginning of your journey. I'm Jerica Miguel. I'm kind of in the midst of mine. I'm a singer-songwriter from Eau Claire, Wisconsin, born and mostly raised there. I have released 2 albums. I'm currently working on my first full-length one. I'm hoping to make it a full-length. And tomorrow I'm releasing a single called My Greatness. It is kind of the first song I've ever shared that has it talks about my queer identity. I am she, they, non-binary, and yeah, we'll learn more, I suppose, about me as we get these questions going, but I think that's the important gist, right? Yeah. Okay.
Well, then you can start off with the first question I have for you, which is, how did you first get into your creative endeavor? Not necessarily your creative field as like a thing you do professionally or for money or anything like that, but how did you get into your creative field? So how did you get into music?
Ooh. Well, my sister Elizabeth, she is just like a year younger than me. She started learning how to play guitar. She started performing, and I am kind of a ham, and I was like, why is she getting all that attention? How do I get up there? And my sister Jerissa and I fell in love with these West African drums called djembes, and we're like, we learned how to play them. And Elizabeth, can we go on stage with you and just play these drums? So then we got the band Queen Elizabeth. So that's how, and there was a sister trio band that played the region for like 10 years in the early 2000s for 10 years. So then that's how I got into music. I was a baseball player. I thought I was going to be the first woman to play men's baseball. I was very ambitious. Still am, actually. But yeah, that was how I entered music.
Yeah, I guess I can kind of pick up off of there too. A similar story, I think it was a form of expression, a sense of belonging and to feel important, I guess, to some extent, to stand out from your siblings, like you had mentioned. Particularly when I was in about middle school, I started writing poetry, which was not like a super manly thing to do, and kind of fielding my emotions through things that I would write and kind of let out of my system. And that kind of led to, I was really big into like rap music and hip hop and modern music, but also like classic rock and all that stuff too. But I kind of taught myself how to freestyle rap. And I grew up in Green Bay. There's not like a whole lot to do when you're growing up in high school and stuff like that. So we would cruise around and put in like an instrumental CD, and we would just all rap and take turns and pass the mic, or pass the mic or whatever. And it led to like going to house parties and kind of doing the same thing. And then that all kind of snowballed into writing, songwriting, and making music and collaborating with others and performing and different stuff like that.
Yeah, writing is weird. It's not really like that. The first thing I actually remember like writing was actually probably for like a class in like the 3rd or 4th grade. I distinctly remember that my teacher didn't like it. There was no point. It was just kind of this winding family circus style whatever. which of course made me mad. So I just kept at it after that, I guess, out of spite. But like my mom and my sister are both writers too. It was just something that I grew up with, that they were always either scribbling away in a notebook. That was how they relaxed in their downtime. And then, 6th grade is probably when I like hardcore started writing. Still have that story. It's terrible. And yeah, I do not remember a time when I wasn't writing once I learned what words were like and how to put them on paper. So, yeah.
Okay, well, as you moved from starting in a creative field into it being something you've decided to do, if not solely as your profession, at least to do and put yourself out there as a creative person, as an artist, like, how do you feel that has happened? Do you feel like it's something that you just do? Do you feel like it's something that you are, or is it a job, or how do you approach it now?
I think about this a lot because I get super excited to book shows, and then when it comes time to play those shows, it's like, oh no, I gotta play a show. Holy crap. So I get like super duper nervous. I just totally lost what you said.
Well, I can kind of piggyback off of that. I think there's different ways that you can approach it, and it doesn't have to be singular. So I approach music as a business, and I approach it as a job. I think there's a certain amount of hours and time that you have to put into it, particularly with like sending emails to get shows booked,
Yeah.
or I manage myself, and I'm sure we all kind of do that in a certain extent.
For now.
For now. And, so there's a lot of time and effort that you have to put into even just those really small victories. Like, getting 3 shows booked can be harder than you might imagine. And especially if you want them to be worthwhile. But on the flip side, if you treat it solely as a job, it's not fun anymore. So if you're just forcing a chapter that you're trying to write, or forcing the storyline in your songwriting, it doesn't become fun, and it leads to writer's block and imposter syndrome and things that make you stay away from the craft. So I always try to remind myself of why I do it and why I have fun with it, and that's what keeps me motivated to take it seriously and put in that time and that effort and that energy.
I remembered too, I was going to say, if you don't mind, Sam, I keep just writing songs. I'm not asking for them to come. I'm not forcing it. It just keeps happening. And because it keeps happening, I feel like, and I'm loving the songs, so I feel like I need to share them. So for me, if it's a question of who you are, is it what you do, is it what you are, I think it's just who I am. And then the performance part of it is something that, sometimes you have to really actively put yourself in the zone to get ready for that. But yes, Sam, please, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, for me, writing cannot be a job where I will hate it. So the fact that I make a little money off of it is a bonus perk, but I don't pay any attention to my sales. There are none. Like literally last year, I think I made like $200 for the whole year.
Yes,
I had
$200
but I estimate like my sales, like in how many bags of cat food I can buy. Like I bought like 8 bags of cat food last year. Like I fed my 3 cats all year. Like
That's super cool.
they're great. Like, but the minute it becomes a job is when it becomes harder to do. So for me, it's not about the money. It's not a compulsion, but it's like if I have this thing in my head that needs to come out, regardless of how long it takes it to come out, it'll get done eventually. And that's kind of the perk with like being the self-published rather than having like an agent and a publisher and deadlines. And like, no, I can do this at my own pace. And if people really want to come along and pick those up, they're going to do it on my time. I'm not doing it on theirs. So yeah, maybe not the best person to ask that question about.
No.
Because it's all on my time and the way I want to do it, which works for me, but definitely would not work for other people.
So then, turning slightly, So the panel is on queer creativity. So how then do you feel like your identity, your space within queerness, however you define that, how does that shape or inform what you do and what you create?
Oh, my books are hella gay.
Yes.
I think I have more queer characters than I do straight characters, which doesn't seem to bother like my beta readers and that kind of thing. I've only ever had one review where, like on Goodreads, you can go look at it, that says, this just was not my style. Didn't give me, 1 star or anything, just was like, nope, I got this for free in your giveaway and not for me, thank you, like, which is fine. But I mean, I just try to have as diverse a cast in my books as possible. I also try to put in things that I feel like we don't see enough of. The one I'm working on right now is a really embarrassing hockey sports novel, but it has a non-binary AFAB character with, this super cute hockey guy who's pan, and it's just how that relationship works. And while also, other out hockey player or not out hockey players, and, Harper has all of these other queer friends, and just kind of how this little group forms together. But yeah, no, I try to be as diverse as possible with my casts.
Okay, well, first of all, you got me interested.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, your sales are gonna go up this month.
Yeah, I think for me, I struggled with my identity for a majority of my life. I don't really anymore. I identify as gay, but I've dated women and different things like that. And part of what I want to do as an artist is bridge the gap between the LGBTQ community and everybody else, religious folks, people that identify as straight, or men, women, anybody. So I try to keep my music a little more, well, not a little more, but somewhat universal, just so that everybody can understand and everybody can relate to it. And for the most part, it's just, let's have fun and let's dance and let's, but there are bits and pieces of me telling you what I'm about and who I am. And slowly but surely, I've kind of integrated pieces about me and shown my identity through my music more and more. And I feel like the more that I do that, the more that people gravitate towards it. It's authentic, it's me, and I'm bringing something that maybe somebody else can't. But also, when you're listening to songs or you're reading lyrics and different things like that, you're learning about me, and you're maybe relating that to yourself as well, however you might identify. So I think it's kind of metaphorical that I struggled so long throughout my life, and I kind of hesitated to just go all out there with throwing on the gayness or slapping a rainbow on something.
Water bottle?
But it's important to be yourself, and it's also important as far as representation, because I know that I guess basically I like to let the music speak for itself, and me just being my authentic self at shows and different things like that and not shying away from who I am allows people to gravitate towards that and maybe motivate them to be their authentic self as well.
Yeah, like I said when I was introducing myself, I'm only now just finally releasing music that talks about, like, explicitly my love for women. And so, I think about queer musicians, and I wish there was a bigger queer community that we could find and be a part of, and more queer people around, just to feel more, because I feel like I play to a lot of straight people all the time. And I feel like I'm always explaining my music, and it's for the most part, people are so wonderfully receptive to, I've played a few of my songs that are about my identity, and people come up after and thank me for sharing my story, and it has been impactful. So it's important to share it, but I do wish that there are just more, especially in this area, to have more queer spaces so I can play to my family, my queer family. I do feel that, I miss that. Not that I really had it, I have played in queer venues and stuff before, but that's what I think about. I just want more. I want more of that to be nurtured and.
Right. So it's kind of talking about audience then.
Yeah.
You're feeling that, and that sort of segues into the sort of like, given the larger audience, given who you all create for, and that you don't have entirely control over who's your audience, you know. That you can't say who's going to buy your book, who's going to show up to a show. Do you feel pressure to sort of conform to a certain version or a certain kind of art then? Do you feel emboldened in the face of that? Is it something that affects you at all? Like what is your relationship to audience and to straight and perhaps queer audiences?
Yeah. I feel it's a juxtaposition of wanting to stay stay universal, where you can perform in front of a straight crowd and nobody really flinches or even thinks anything of it. And part of my thing is I just don't want to be pigeonholed as like a gay artist, because it's not like, it's definitely not a negative thing, but there are certain perspectives and minds that will then either discredit you completely or consider you one thing only, like a Pride Month artist. And so that can be tough, and sometimes I want to play up to my identity more, and because it has granted me certain opportunities that other people couldn't as well. So you want to play that up without kind of making yourself just one thing, but also staying true to your community as well.
I think when I was younger, I was like that, but now I just don't care. Like, when I was younger, I was like, should I present as I still dress the way I did, but I wore tighter shirts but always baggy pants, always. Always. In high school, I was called Wigger J, and that's probably really offensive now, but that's what they call me, so I was always wearing baggy pants. Irrelevant. I was there at that place that you're at, and the audience is going to get me exactly who I am. My shows, I'm telling you, my songs they're poetry, they come from my, trauma that I've experienced, relationships that have happened that were not good, and so you're getting an authentic, real experience. This is who I am. I'm not saying you're hiding yourself, but I felt for a long time that I need to be careful what I say, because I got to be careful about the straight audience that might not be as accepting. I'm not worried about that anymore. Even when I go to a small town, I'll still do my thing. I'll still say the truth that's in me to say, but I am scared to drive home sometimes. But I am who I am. And I don't know. And if this is how I'm not trying to say this is better and yours is better, but I'm more comfortable this way. Then I don't have to think so hard about what others think about me, you know?
Well, and I'm sorry to interject here, but I totally agree with you, and I feel like, obviously I am being myself and all that stuff, but I think on the flip side, it's like sometimes in order to fit in queer spaces, you're almost expected to like paint your nails and dye your hair or kind of express yourself outwardly in a certain way, and I just don't necessarily feel the need to do so. So sometimes I almost feel like I have to prove that I'm gay. Not that like people are like, "Where's your card?" or anything like that, but it's like I am being me, and sometimes I feel like I'm pressured into being more outwardly when I don't necessarily want to.
Yeah, you two definitely have it harder because I get to hide behind a book. A photograph of me is not even on the book. I commissioned an avatar basically of myself to put on my books because I work in kind of a conservative field, sort of, a community. And so my books are in my library, but they do not have my real name on them. Sam LaRose is not my real name. So I can kind of hide behind a veil, so to speak. I had a patron who I've come to know very well. She read them. She liked them. She asked for more. And I said, oh, no, sorry, there's only the 5 out right now. That was great, but I was not going to tell her that they were my books. That's just my staff's little secret. But there's also this that you guys might not be aware of, but in LGBTQ fiction, specifically male loving male romance, there is an issue with cishet women writing this fiction. So part of why I use a more masculine name and why I am very adamant, like in my author bio, about being non-binary and they, them, where I'm not in real life like as hardcore about, like I do not care. You can he, him, me all you want, you can they, them, she, her. It does not matter to me personally. But I wanted to be very clear that I am a queer person writing a queer book because otherwise I can be very feminine looking, and like, yeah, so sometimes I have a hard time feeling like I fit into queer spaces. Like even today I was like, I need to look appropriate for work, I need to look appropriate for this panel, but do I look gay enough today? Because I'm going to be in front of real people. And actually I realized as I was in the car like halfway around, like I forgot to put on my pan necklace today, like this feels weird now. Like, yeah, so I definitely have the benefit of people do not need to know who I am, like, as a real life person. I am, like, this invisible entity that has just written this thing that they can either enjoy or they don't enjoy, and I don't need to know how they react to it. Like, that's kind of a perk. Also frustrating, because, like, I know that I've sold over 800, or given away over 800 books, and I only have 6 reviews, and I'm like, really? So yeah, that it can be frustrating.
Yeah, not knowing the impact that you're making, truly.
Like, how many people are just grabbing it because, like, the first book in my trilogy is free, and it's just sitting on their Kindle waiting and waiting and waiting. It's so frustrating.
And you've all talked about, or brushed against something, which is that the political realities of being queer is complicated and often not safe. How do you feel like other than putting pressures on you to sort of like ID or look a certain way or present a certain way, does the current political realities or the historical political realities sort of impact your creative process? Does it help or hinder or any part of this? You know, do you place yourself in any sort of queer contexts or movements with that, or is it just like is creativity something that you engage politically in, or is it something that you escape from politics through?
I would say writing is definitely escapism. I wouldn't say that I write my novels in like queer utopia. Like, I mean, there are problems. Like there's a fight in one of my books. There's a drug overdose in another one. Like, I don't want to pretend that there aren't issues, but also it can just be so exhausting to like the kill your gaze trope. I don't do that. I cannot. Like for me, reading has always been escapism, and I would prefer that my books stay that way for people too. Like, they're soft, fluffy, contemporary romances with just a little bit of drama, like basically for the sake of plot, because otherwise it's boring. Like, that's how that works.
Yeah, I feel like in the instances where I've presented myself more strongly and been more outward, I get a mix of both. Like, I get a mix of like supreme support from my community, because that's who I was trying to reach. And then there's also the, oh, yep, never listening to you again because of how you identify, even though I was like bobbing my head to the music before. Now that's 2% of people, but there's like, 98% that's either like, I don't really care, or like, it's just about the music, or I'm having fun at this show, and that has nothing to do with anything about what's happening. Like, we don't have to have a panel about, at a show, we don't have to have a panel talking about our identities and stuff, and that's kind of the fun part too. I guess, for example, it's Pride Month, so I'm kind of going hard on that, and I made like this like little video where I was talking about, oh, hey, I'm a queer artist, and it's my month because I'm getting shows booked finally, and like I get representation on Spotify, and like, oh, it's Pride Month, so like everybody wear your rainbow TYB shirt or something, like that kind of thing. And so I posted this video, and I've never gotten that many views, And it's also one of the first times that I've really gotten a lot of hate comments. A lot of repent and delete this, and why don't you just be a man? Because I was joking around, I had my shirt tied up a little bit, and I was kind of twerking on the counter and just whatever, and I was just like, oh, I'm showing skin to prove my gayness and that stuff, and people were just upwardly offended, and just put throwing up emojis and different things like that. Mind you, they didn't have to stay and comment.
Nope.
They really did not have to stay there and comment and share their opinion. They could have just kept scrolling, but they did it for a reason. And I take an invite to that because I would like to draw up that engagement, and that's a great opportunity. So word to the wise, if somebody ever trolls you, make sure to reply back with love and support. And fortunately, a bunch of people came into the comments and was kind of backing me up and just telling them to go away, and just how flawed their logic is, and why are you watching a video with LGBTQIA hashtags and stuff like that. So I think there is certain cause for concern at certain moments and certain times, but for the most part, we've come a long way. Even 10 years ago, I might not have been able to be myself this much, and still receive the type of support that I do. So I think we're very fortunate for the time that we live in.
Yeah, in college I got a liberal studies degree, and it was social justice through creative writing, and so it's been my heart's passion, equality, my whole life. So my music, though it is not explicitly political, I'm hoping that it can help inspire people to dive into themselves and find their true self. Because I think that if everyone stops wasting their time telling everybody else how to live life, and they dive into themselves and discover who they are, it's a benefit for everyone else. And I try to insert that message into my music. My song for my first album called Something New is, something new needs to come on through, and that new is us, that thing in us that we keep pushing down and hiding. And so it's not explicitly political, but I get to share that kind of thing. I want people to stop worrying about everyone else and look at themselves and find some kind of peace in there. And I spread this message every time I'm playing too. And now that I have this new song that I've been playing live, it gets to be I get to step on my soapbox, and it turns out I really like my soapbox a lot. and the response is always so great. I love being able to this is who I am, and whatever's happening in Florida and Texas, and the don't say gay, that got my goat. So I spoke about it in public, and fortunately it was a very warm crowd at this particular moment I'm talking about, and I was on my soapbox for a long time because I don't like that stuff. I get stuck sometimes.
And we need people to do that though.
Right, and it turns out that it was an important thing for people to hear. So, and I also think even though I have long hair, I feel like I'm super queer, but I don't dress to be queer. I dress to be Jericho. And I hope that too is a political statement as well. There isn't a look. This is my girlfriend, and I know the camera can't see. This is my girlfriend Maddie. I'm sorry to pick you out. She's hyper femme. This is the most feminine person I know. She's gay. These are people. She's outside that stereotype, And so, just how we present ourselves, even off the stage, it's hard not to be political. Is what I'm saying. Our existence is. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank you.
1 point, Jericho.
So now just to step away from politics a bit and sort of get down a bit more into the process of what you do. Just sort of speaking to what is your process? What is your creative process? How do you go about creating?
Butt in chair, fingers at keyboard. That's it.
So it's a discipline thing, just sitting down and making
Well, it doesn't happen if I am not sitting down either in front of my computer or with a notebook. I've started longhand writing before bed, but I am not a planner. I don't do outlines or anything like that. I'm literally the worst writer ever.
That's not what I heard.
What are you doing here?
I know, I don't know what they were thinking, letting me be on this panel. Like, they contacted me and asked specifically, would you apply to be on this panel? And I said, sure. And but like, no, literally, it's just, these people live inside of my head and they control it all. They pour out however it is that they choose. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Like I cut out 4,000 words of something I started because I was like, that's gonna be better as a separate short like teaser story to release later, because it actually takes my published trilogy and then combines it with the hockey novels. I was so excited, I figured out a way to do that. And which I think other people will be really excited about later too, but now's not the time. Like, so yeah, I did take out like 4,000 words and I was like, we'll come back to you guys at this bar. But yeah, it literally, it's sitting down and doing it. There's no planning involved. Terrible process.
I mean, yeah, I can relate. It's messy, right? It's not like one, I mean, not saying anything messy, but I am. And I'm like all over the place. A lot of what I do is I'll work with my producers to get like an instrumental and a sound that I like. And I just have to set aside time, like butt and chair, feet on the ground, I guess. I usually stand, but I just kind of freestyle it, I guess. I kind of just like sing something that I think would sound good, and then I put lyrics to it later and piece it piece by piece and do different things. But sometimes I'll write a thought or I'll record a voice memo of something that I enjoy or something that I think would sound good, or maybe something that I think would be resonating with the current culture. Or just like a key phrase. It just depends upon the song. It depends upon so many different things. But I've written full songs in my phone or on a piece of paper, and some I've just kind of like floated through and made up things as I went, and it worked out really well. But it's a mess.
Yeah, like writing, it's not really a discipline. I let it happen when I play guitars all the time, and sometimes it's other artists that inspire me, and mostly it's like my own life, but just the process of picking up the guitar and just simply strumming and see what comes from the strum. And then if I like a riff, I put hum to it, and then I'm like, okay, what's this feel like? What words are coming to me? And then words start coming out. Sometimes a song, it's rare, but every great once in a while, a song comes out in a day. But mostly it's something I gotta work on over weeks. Sometimes years. Like and voice memo app for musicians is a very important app.
Yeah.
There's so many weird sounds on my app that I'm just thinking, could that? Maybe not. But some good ones too. The voice memo app is such a vital tool for, well, I suppose any creator is just save a thought in there too. But that's
Note to self. That was like a thing
Yeah.
in the 90s. It was like, note to self.
Yeah.
Right?
Recording on a little cassette
Yeah.
recorder thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's my process, yeah.
And have you ever dealt with periods of time when you just like couldn't, where you were somehow separated from creating or could not get into it? And if so, like, how did you deal with that?
Sometimes you just have to take the time and to just not do it. Like, I've had pieces, literally, like my original trilogy, I wrote that first draft in like 2004. It went through, literally I threw it in the garbage and started over, basically. But no, there have been long periods of like months, even, like a year where it's like, I really haven't been writing very much. Like it's just weird little paragraphs of whatever garbage pops into my head. But that's okay. Like it's okay to not do the thing for a little while. Sometimes it helps to go back and look at other pieces I've been working on, and I always have multiple works in progress. Like there's like literally like 6 things that I need to finish on my hard drive right now that will be finished and be published someday. Not to mention all the other things percolating. But yeah, going back and like rereading old stuff sometimes helps. just reading in general helps. Watching, I prefer TV over movies, because it's basically it's a visual book. So, just doing other things, and because eventually it'll come back.
Yeah, I mean, I think you made a great point. Like, you have to be able to live your life to be able to share a story. You have to be comfortable with yourself. I know the times that I've been in creative slumps or just didn't feel like I had anything to say or any ideas. I was going through a lot in my life personally. So I just didn't have the mental capacity to be confident in my work or to feel creative or whether it was financial or relationships and different things like that. So but one thing I try to do is be consistent, and that doesn't always mean I'm going to sit down and write a song, or I might go a couple months without creating a song or anything like that. But what I try to do is then focus on the business aspect or focus on putting myself in a better situation, whether that's learning how to edit videos or sending emails and trying to get song placements or shows or different things like that. And so, you do have to take breaks, and you can't just be a machine robot and do it. But as an independent artist with no record label or anybody kind of pushing me to do that, I have the luxury of taking my time, but also managing my workload and making sure I stay consistent and I don't drift off too far away. Because sometimes if it gets out of sight, out of mind too much, and you're kind of in a depressive like creative slump, it can be hard to get out of it too.
I think that's smart, Tyler, that you take your downtime of creating and use it for the business end. That's really smart. That's a great idea. I was a slower writer for a very long time. Maybe I'd write one every couple months. But I decided to sober up from alcohol in August of 2020. And ever since then, it's like a year, almost a year and 10 months, I think.
That's a lot.
It's a long time. In life, it's the best decision I've made ever in my life. It's like opened a floodgate. It's like I freed my heart and spirit and mind of all the darkness that the drinking kept making me dwell on. And when that all rose up, so too did the stuff I was shoving down. And the stuff I was shoving down started to become songs. I used to drink right before shows and during shows, and so now I'm faced with my own self without alcohol in me as medication to calm me down. So that rose anxiety level, and how do I learn how to cope with these tools sober? And that inspired songs, because my songs are my therapy, and when I write, I'm trying to figure myself out and hoping that as I'm figuring myself out and as I'm writing and sharing it, that it too will connect to others, because I'm a human. I experience being a human just like everyone else. So, and I open myself up. I get nervous before shows sometimes because I'm afraid I'm gonna cry because my music is so vulnerable. But for me, sobering up opens the door for my writing. So it's kind of the answering opposite of your question. I've had a good flow of music lately. It's been slowing down, which is totally fine because I can use a break. I'm bragging now, aren't I? But when it's downtime, it's downtime. It's totally fine. I don't beat myself up. I never have with this. Fortunately, I beat myself up with plenty of other things.
How many hours a day do we sleep? 7, 8?
Yeah, 7.
How many hours in a day? 24 hours. That means you can't write and work all day. You have to have your downtime. And that's just, sleep pattern is the same as kind of like your work or your creative work and hobbies and all that stuff.
Back to you, Charles.
Yeah.
I mean, we can
I
keep
think
going
it's
if you
with
want.
I think it's sort of related to this, but it's like, what that you know now do you wish you had known when you were younger or just starting out?
First of all, you should sing that song. What's that, Rod Stewart song, right?
I forgot who it was.
That's all
I
we
wish
get.
I knew what I know now.
When I was younger.
Yeah.
Do you know the song?
Vaguely, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, well, maybe if,
I butchered it.
yeah, if we did it correctly, you'd all know what I'm talking about.
We didn't rehearse.
No,
I mean,
sorry.
around Apple
We didn't
Music, we
prepare.
could ask Siri.
You should have let us know you were gonna say it in that way.
Uh,
And spark this in our head.
I'm saying.
All right, sorry, now this is, what was the question?
Yeah.
You answered the question with a
Oh,
question.
what do we wish we would have known when we were younger before we got
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
You know the lyrics.
Yeah, you had to sing that song 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Oh man, I wish, okay, so I'm a product of the 80s. Sam, did I cut you off?
No.
Okay, I wish I was a product of the 80s and 90s. So I was like trained to be closeted, keep it to yourself. I'm 40. And I wish that when I was younger, I could have been this person I am now, and I would have started and pushed my music way harder back then. Because now, you know, I feel like, you know, I'm happy where I'm at. I'm so blessed with all my experiences. I feel blessed that I was, you know, I've been like discriminated against too, because it's made me who I am. It has shaped me. I would not be this person without any of that shit. But I wish that I could just have this confidence in who I am, in my sexuality, because I thought I had to hide it. I thought that I didn't fit in any music industry pocket, especially in the early 2000s when I was testing this out. There wasn't a place for us. There wasn't a welcome space. And I feel like anybody who was queer and open as a musician, they were a novelty, you know? They were like, would dress up in great costumes, and straight people would love them because they're so entertaining.
Yeah.
But what is a singer-songwriter who sings a lot of pretty sad songs? How do I fit into that? I don't have that. And I'm not gonna change who I am. So, I just wish I could have been this person then.
I mean, I would echo everything you just said, like literally, like word bar for bar.
Yeah, bar for bar. We should talk.
Just, yeah, I think just knowing that I was gonna make it past, like where I was, like I guess I think back to high school, I was in a really, really tough place mentally when in senior year. I was outed my senior year, and all of my friends, like I played sports, I was in basketball and football and different things like that, and a lot of my friends flipped on me, and they pretended like they didn't know who I was anymore. I was bullied, I had death threats, I was kind of in a really rough place, and drowned myself in different substances, and luckily I got out of it and went to college because I didn't know where I was going in life. I was hanging out with really bad people at the time, and we were just doing really reckless things. I had 2 DUIs before I was 18. I was just very a shell of myself, and I didn't know who I was, and I was scared to face reality. So I guess what I wish I would have known that beyond that I would be okay later on, and I can be myself and do all the things that I think I can do and want to do, and be a part of all the things that I've always wanted to, and still be myself and not have to hide, because I feel like I missed a huge chunk of my life, and I'm still kind of dealing with the trauma from that. So yeah, just knowing that everything's gonna be okay.
I guess my thing would be that I wish when I had been in middle school, high school, even early college, that we had more of the language that we have now. Like when I was in high school, my biggest struggle wasn't necessarily, like, I think people just kind of assumed that I was a lesbian, even because I didn't really date, and most of my friends were female. But I wrote down, and everybody knew that I was the one that liked gay guys. Like that's how the foreign exchange student walked up to me and said, "You're the one who likes the gay guys." And I'm like, "Yep, that's me. Thanks."
That's one thing.
Didn't know that was going around, but thank you very much. But like, my thing was like, I struggled, specific, like my senior year was just like, I do not feel like my female friends, like I have so many issues with being female, but we didn't have the word non-binary. We didn't have gender fluid. We didn't have, like, those words did not exist. And I feel like it would have been far less of a struggle. And then like as a freshman in college, I had a friend, because again, I really didn't date even in college. I don't even date now. But a friend, we were walking out of the dorms and she's like, "Are you asexual?" And I'm like, "No, I don't think so." Like, what? Like I never, like, because that was a new word for us. So it was like, no, that's, no. So yeah, I wish our language moved faster, because like, I feel like that gives me the capability now to tell more inclusive stories. Like in something more, I had one of my beta readers, she was reading for me. She'd read my other one, so she kind of knew what was going on, and she like kind of Jordan's whole thing, and she's like, I have never resonated more with the character in my whole life. Like I feel like I'm finally able to better define myself for reading this character, and I'm like, you're welcome. Like it was so sweet. Like I love that I did that for her. But that's because we have the language now to better describe. Whereas when I wrote this trilogy back in 2004, that book didn't even exist. It couldn't have existed. So yeah, that's what I wish we'd had before, was the languages, the words we have now.
Yeah, I agree.
Even though it's also a curse, like there's almost too many words now.
But at least we have more options.
But yeah, like,
And it's more familiar with the general public, I think, now too.
Right.
Where, I mean, some of those words might have existed, but now it's almost common. And some people would argue that it's like too in your face or whatever.
right,
Like,
right. They don't look at you quite as blankly, just, oh, I've never met one of those before.
Yeah.
Like, I knew they were here somewhere. But,
Thank you. We're about time, I think, to open it up to questions from the audience, so very much feel free, ask away.
Don't everybody jump.
No pressure, guys. It probably feels like there's pressure on you. There's not.
But if you are curious about anything,
I'll ask, like, what's the dream, like the big dream, like what, 5, 10 years, whatever, like, what do you want to see, and how, and who and how is you're gonna get there?
I'm really loving the Americana music scene. They're super accepting of all marginalized folks, making a point to empower them too. So I'm really interested in just getting my foot into the Americana Nashville scene. Not that I want to move, but that seems to be the mecca of it, is Nashville in the art that I'm making. So I don't have goals, but it would just be great that it sustained me. And it doesn't have to be like hyper successful. It just needs to sustain my life so I can have a comfortable life doing what I love. And I've been very patient. Like I said, I'm 40. Been very patient waiting for this to happen. I've had many jobs. I have lots of skills because I've done lots of things. But it'd be nice for what I love to do to be the thing. And that's the dream for everyone, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the more you do it, the more polished you are and the more ready you're going to be for that moment.
Yeah, that's so true.
And it's never too late. It really is never too late. There's so many actors and artists and examples of that where they've started later in their life and maybe didn't even play a part in that art or that creative mode, and in their 50s even, or anything, they've succeeded in their dreams. So I definitely think it's never too late. 5-10 years, I'm not like a huge planner, unfortunately, but I think I just want to continue to grow and find my community, find the people that resonate with what I'm doing, whether it be just like the way that music or my presence or appearance makes them feel, or maybe it's motivate them to kind of start their own career and use their voice to say what they have to say. Obviously, I want to continue doing music and have it be sustainable to do it full time and dedicate every ounce that I have into it without any distractions. I think that's kind of the goal. I'm not necessarily out here to like be famous or make a bunch of money, but if I can make a really cool song that travels on throughout the world, that's the goal.
I love my day job as a librarian, so I mean, making money is never my goal. It would be nice to keep being able to feed my cats. Like, I know that sounds really ludicrous, but all I have going for me right now, you know, sounds so sad.
No, it's wonderful. You have your cats.
Yeah, cats are great. I don't have a cat, so
They're
like.
terrible. You know, it would be really great if I had a publisher that could do the marketing and all the stuff that I hate doing, so that I could focus on just telling the stories that I want to tell. But you know what? It's not important to me because I have a day job that mostly pays my bills. It's not a lucrative career being a librarian. But you know, I have things that are important to me. You know, keeping my family farm together, and going to work every day, doing what I do as a librarian for inclusive services. And that's where all my political leaning stuff falls into, is my library work. That's why I keep it out of my books, because it's just exhausting. So, you know, I want to keep doing what I do as my day job and just keep my writing as kind of my, that's how I relax at the end of the day, is doing the writing. But you know, if I make the extra, it's great, but it's not the end of the world if I never get more than those 6 reviews I have on Goodreads right now. It's fine.
Anyone else? All right, well, I have another one. So what's all like just a moment of pure joy that's happened surrounding your creativity? Like, what's one thing that's happened or you've experienced that's just like, yes, this is why I do it. This is why I make what I make.
I already mentioned the beta reader and the, you know, oh my God, I finally relate to this character. But honestly, like one thing, like just a little thing that just kind of brings me this little piece of joy every time it happens, because it happens with almost every book she's ever read for me. But one of my like main beta reader, there's always at least one word or a phrase in a book that she's never heard before that I then have to define for her. She recently came out as bi. But otherwise, like she's just really she's in a straight presenting relationship, so she really hasn't explored the queer community very much. But I love the comments and the margins I get from her that are just like, I had to look that up. You like, or you know, like whatever it is, like I had no idea there was a word for that. It's really great. It just makes me laugh every time.
I'm still waiting for that moment that says this is why I do it. No, like I feel like I love, like even though I'm terrified of performing, I do have so many wonderful moments while doing it. And it's my favorite moments are like when I'm just talking between songs and connecting with the audience, and when I hear them laughing at something ridiculous that I say. Just the connection makes me feel. And I mean, when you walk away from a show, no matter how nervous you go into it, walking away from it, most times it's like, oh, that's right. This feels so good right now. This feels amazing. So that after performance high that you get, I love that high. I just hate what it takes to get to it sometimes. Oh, it's hard. It's scary. It's scary being in front of people. You guys have been so wonderful. I feel like I'm at a show all of a sudden.
I don't know, I guess a couple, like so many things are popping in my mind, like personal achievements, I guess, and kind of like milestones with music, and seeing your work, you know, like in a advertisement, or you know, seeing people react to it, or you know, and then kind of seeing the numbers on social media and stream counts and stuff like that is very exciting to me, and just knowing that people are actually listening to it is like incredible. But I guess the most recent example that comes to mind is Sounds Like Summer at Phoenix Park last week. You were there.
I was there.
You were both there.
Oh,
Yeah. You were there.
Megan was there too.
But like, there, you know, like if you've ever been there, there's kids always dancing and coming up, and you know, even adults and stuff like that. And at the end of every set, I teach everybody the Bob Ross dance, and So, and it's like super easy to do, so everybody can do it. And, you know, just seeing everybody at the end of the show like come together and we're all dancing together. And mind you, there's no alcohol. Well, there might have been alcohol involved, but like, you know, I've been to so many different things where we do that, and it's just like, it's something to get us out of our comfort zone. And that's just so beautiful to see. And that I was able to orchestrate that is like really touching. And after the set, I have these like custom Pokemon cards that I was handing out to people that were coming, and there was like a line of people like wanting to get it, and then some kid was like, "Oh, can I get an autograph?" I'm like, "Oh, like I don't have like a marker or anything." And some kid like popped out of nowhere like, "I got one!" And I'm like, "Oh snap! Okay, let's do this." And I think I autographed like half of them, which you know is just touching. It's really like humbling, and yeah, I think that's a reason why I keep doing it.
Sweet. It's really fun to watch how you, Tyler, are able to, every time I've seen you perform, that song, no matter how calm an audience might be, that song gets people to move. And you bring up all types of people. It's not the same kind of person. I love watching it. It's so fun.
Just can't get you up there. No.
I'm a little shy.
Yeah. Since when?
Called out.
Yeah.
Bob Ross is hard to do,
I'll tell
guys.
it.
So, okay, then I'll try to get like, as kind of a closing statement, before we get to actual closing statements, but to wind us down. What is a piece of advice you give not to yourself when you're young, but to other people getting involved in your field now? Someone coming up who kind of wants to break in, even if you don't feel like you've broken in any sense, what's a piece of advice you give to a younger creative or someone even earlier on their career?
Oh, I'm gonna start with this one. I'm in the middle, but I'm gonna start with this one. Be yourself all the way through. You know, be kind, move with love and empathy, but like, no matter how nerdy you are, or like how queer you are, or how you talk, or how your face looks, or anything like that, like, go all in and be yourself. And I think a great example of that is TikTok, where the most random video will go absolutely viral, or people will wake up to hundreds of thousands of follows, and it's really just people resonating and with like what you're doing. And it could be funny, it could be interesting, it could be entertaining, it really doesn't matter. But I guess my point of that is like, find your community, because there are so many people out there like you. They're not exactly like you, but there are so many people that are going to relate to what you have to say and what you have to do, regardless of how mundane or boring you think you might be. You're actually really excellent and exciting, and you have a lot to share, and there's a lot of people that will resonate with what you have to say.
It's hilarious that you bring up TikTok, because it's really super true. The closest I've gotten to a viral video is like almost 5,000 views on a video I did about my asparagus bed.
See?
And I'm like, why? Of the like 200 videos I've made about writing and my books and just stupid things, my grandpa's asparagus patch is what you people wanted this whole time.
Asparagus is good though.
It is. It's delicious. Like
Yes.
I said, the season is ending.
Oh, wow.
It is. It went through super fast. To actually answer the question though, my biggest thing that I always, so I'm also a forum moderator and a municipal liaison for National Novel Writing Month. So I spend a lot of time on the NaNoWriMo forums, basically telling people to stop being stupid. But one thing that particularly new writers, they overthink everything. They want to plan everything out before they ever start writing anything. And my thing is always, stop overthinking it, just start writing. Because that's what the editing process is for. Just tell the story, like, don't worry about whether or not you're, doing an identity correctly, if you are being problematic, whatever. Like, someone will call you out on that in the editing process. But for now, you're just stalling. Like, just shut up and start writing. Like, that's my advice. Just shut up and start writing.
That's great advice, actually.
That's awesome. I mean, the same thing for just starting.
Maybe a
writing
little
songs.
nicer.
Like a bio
Yeah.
description
Yeah.
that you're overthinking?
You're right, yeah. Oh man, yeah. I was overthinking too hard. When I finally sit down to do the
Yeah.
thing I'm worried about, it's like, whoop, done. Literally. Okay, Tyler took mine, because be yourself is incredibly important. So the other thing that I am coming to terms with lately is realizing that no matter what I put out there, no matter how much I push it, no matter how much I promote it, no matter how much heart I put into it, I'm still not in control of what the outcome is. And I need to let go. And this is advice to everybody. You gotta let go of what you cannot control. If it is in you to create, create. Keep doing it. And if you're creating, share it. Create community with what you're creating. But stop trying to worry about the outcome. It is not in your control. You can just do what you do, sit back, relax, see what happens. Because that is not up to you to control. So that's mine. It's something I wish I would have heard years and years ago.
That's a conversation that has happened on the NaNoWriMo forums, at least twice to my recollection. People have a hard time, like, once this thing is out there, I can't control how people are going to react to the thing, which is why there are so many conversations over, like, I want to write a queer character, but I'm not queer, so how do I do that without making people mad at me? Well, guess what? You're going to make people mad at you because everyone has a different experience. I'm a non-binary pansexual, and I know I piss people off because my experience is different from someone else's experience. So while I can write from my experience and how other people can tell me about their experiences and I can use that, none of our experiences are exactly the same. So you cannot control it once it is out of your hands and someone else is consuming it. You don't get to control how they react to it. And you have to let that go.
And also don't let that be a measure.
Right.
What the reactions, don't let that be a measure to yourself.
Yeah. Don't read reviews. I do, but I really shouldn't.
In that case, do you have any closing thoughts other than?
And if you're queer, create, just do it. We are living in a time right now that is it's ready for us. This is our time, they're ready for us now. Like I was in a time when they were not ready for too many of us. A couple of us could trickle in here and there. But now it doesn't matter. So create, please create. The world wants what you have to offer.
The library world right now, we are dealing with a lot of backlash against queer creativity. But in the last week, 2 weeks or so, I have had 2 teenagers come into my library and been so thrilled that I have queer books on the shelf for them. Due to issues, I had to read a bunch of LGBTQ novels for like elementary, 4th through 6th grade mostly. And while I did not believe any of them should be removed from the library, and no, I did not enjoy every single one of them, there was still this part of me that said, I really wish that these had existed when I was this age, so that I would have known that was loud. It was okay to be me and be different. Because it is okay to be you and to be different and to have your experience. Because we shouldn't have to pretend we're not us anymore. And it's 2022. Like, it's fine. They can get over it.
Yeah, thanks for the work you do as a librarian. Libraries were a safe space for me, and even though I would hide what I'm pulling off the shelf, I got the education I needed, to help understand who I am.
When I was a kid, the great thing about our library system is that you can order in library items from 54 other libraries, part of the Moore system. So if I don't have something on my shelf in my library for someone who wants it, they can get it from one of the other ones. And if they don't have it, I have a statewide system that is also open to the rest of the United States. I can get it for you. It might just take a little longer. So like if you want something, go to your library. we'll get it for you one way or another. But I remember like my librarians as a kid, they were obviously older ladies, like in their like 60s and 70s. And so I was always like, okay, I'm ordering in all of these queer books. Like, what do they think of me? Like, because we didn't have self-check. We still, well, technically we do now on our app, but I was like, I just want my books and I don't want them to know what I'm reading, but it's the only way I can get it. But
You had to brave the checkout. Please don't read that.
Just like,
scan it.
I'm just here to pick up my stuff.
Like it's something that should be shameful, you
Right,
know?
like,
Like,
it just,
It
which
felt
is-
like it back then.
yeah, no, definitely.
and like, my parents didn't monitor what I read. Like, they didn't care, like, at all. So, like, I read a lot of romance at, like, I was telling someone today, like, I'm pretty sure I read my first Harlequin romance at, like, 9. Like, because it's what my mom had in the house, and I was bored. Look at me now, but.
Hey, yeah. Thank God for that.
But yeah, so, and being creative, like your library is a great place to be. It's a great place to like donate your creativity. You know, I've done short story contests in the past. We're always looking for art, for free entertainment, whatever it is. Like donate your skill. We greatly appreciate it. So minor shout out to libraries. I can't help it. It's my job.
Yeah, and they're great.
I don't know, I would definitely say that representation matters, and like that phrase gets thrown around a lot, but it could not be more true, and it could not be more impactful for people that are growing up, youth. Like, I feel like if we had more representation when we were growing up, we would have felt more comfortable at an earlier age doing what we're doing, and you know, and definitely like support queer artists and support people that. But don't support queer artists because they're queer. Support them because they're good, and support them because you resonate with them. And you know, just because they're queer doesn't make them, you know, the best at what they do. But you know, support people that you enjoy, and nobody else has to decide what you enjoy, except for you.
Well, thank you so much for your time and your eloquence and your passion and your creativity. It's been amazing talking with you. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, awesome.
Oh.
Did I scare people with
Wow.
my hand motions a lot?
I love that. I love that energy.
I feel like it's like